So we all survived that first wave. I guess the question now is looking back and where we're at now and knowing that companies as big as Google, right? Google's announced that they're not going to send their workforce back until mid-summer of next year. So knowing that, are there, I guess, are you changing your approach to cybersecurity strategy internally as a result of maybe not everyone's coming back now and we need to rethink how we're going to protect everything? A friend of mine who happens to run a managed security service provider over in Iowa City said if you go back to March and think about it, you know, the theory about cybersecurity was it was the castle doctrine, right? You take all of the prized goods and you build up a wall around that data and those crown jewels, and you protect them. And that's how every company and every organization has built it. He said the problem was in March, all the employees packed up those crown jewels, loaded them in some cases onto their kids' laptops, and went home. So now we need a completely different approach to thinking about cybersecurity because the walls just don't protect that data like they once did. So Alex, I'll pose it to you. Do you feel the need to recalibrate, or do you feel like you had the flexibility needed to adapt?
Well, we certainly had some good things going for us, without a doubt. But we are taking a step back explicitly and considering this further. We just announced actually yesterday that even when we go to what we call phase 2, we're currently in phase 1, but phase 2 of reopening our offices, that we're going to assume that most people will work at home up to 40% of their time, just on a go-forward basis. And so we're actually going to offer stipends for them to buy equipment on an approved list on an annual basis so that they can have a secure home office. Now, we have chosen forever to issue laptops and manage mobile devices that have Kingland data on it. That won't change. We think that's the right answer. We think the right answer is machine certification, certificates, excuse me, VPN, all those good things. But you're only as good as your weakest link. And I talk about the fortress or the castle, as you said. And while we've done a lot of penetration testing and hardening within the castle of our network equipment, how good is that VPN connection and the perimeter? And so we're actually bringing in a third party to do an assessment of us, of how good is that, knowing that remote work is going to be with us at least for the next 6 months and probably for the foreseeable future as the dynamics of our workforce have changed. Some things that just has hit us, hit me, is for the longest time, when you're coming back to the office at least every week, I do a lot of travel typically, right now nothing, but I'm always within our network, which means all the management software within the ecosystem is automatically updating my laptop and so on. If I'm not on VPN now, my endpoint protection works, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything around Microsoft Windows is updating. So putting further emphasis and focus on patch management and just really testing each of these things, whether VPN, patch management, or otherwise, against the remote workforce is what we're doing. The final thing is I've written a series of corporate blogs that I never thought I'd be writing about. Are you updating your personal firewalls at home? Because now I've had to extend my network out into people's basements. And how do I know that those network devices intervening are any good? I can overcome a lot of that with VPN and so on. I understand that, but is there a new risk surface, a new threat that I didn't have to really worry about before, or maybe I should have worried about before, but I just sort of put that down the list. And now that's went way up the list. So the ordering of priorities on security has changed based on remote work being here to stay.
Well, I think you're spot on. I'd like to come back to a couple of those points. But first, Nicole, can you take us fast forward from March to today? Has there been a change in your strategy internally? I don't want you to give up the secret sauce about how you're protecting the hospital, but has there been a change in mindset or approach based on lessons learned?
Yeah, we definitely have had to take a step back and say, okay, we did this quickly. Did we do it well? And I think we've changed some of our priorities based on that analysis. And, we'll probably be doing some changing within the environment. But I think just generally ditto to everything that Alex just said about taking a step back and talking about your risk, your attack surface, and then also those concerns about people with home firewalls and all of that. So I just want to echo, yeah, similar concerns, but we are, yes, taking a step back, looking at how we did it, making sure we're shoring that up. But something that's a little bit different that I feel like I've noticed personally is that, and I'm curious, Alex, to your feedback on this, is that it's shifted our culture a little bit as a department because it's primarily a bunch of IT people that are doing the remote work, because of course we had to determine who could work remotely, and then people are starting to trickle back in on and off, but as a department it really affected our culture. So I'm curious, Alex, how it affected your culture at Kingland to have everybody be remote all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's been a material shift in how we interact and communicate. I think our core culture around creativity, authenticity, those types of things, that has not changed. Who we are as a firm has not changed, but how we have interacted with each other has materially changed. And so we have valued as an organization significantly the in-person meetings. And for those, not everyone knows Kingland, but we have invested a lot of money in facilities as a tech firm. That's very abnormal what we've done. Because we're a core believer in bringing people together in a room, hashing out a problem, going to a whiteboard, and so on. And that part of our culture has been tested and challenged, and we don't know where that's going to land. I mean, for me personally, I do a lot of PowerPoint presentations, and I have found I am much slower doing that without first diagramming it on a whiteboard. And so part of what we're being tested on at a cultural level is, what do we need to do to equip our people to still have those meaningful discussions, those meaningful problem solving, to really still run the business well. If you're doing heads down coding work, it doesn't really matter where you're sitting. But if you're trying to solve a complex, hard problem on behalf of a client, that collaboration is really critical. And so this is me hypothesizing, but I believe that whole collaboration space, like we use WebEx, is going to change, and change for the better. But it's just not there today. And so I think we're going to struggle with that until somebody comes up with something inventive.
Let me just say, as an employee for 15 years of a company that has been 100% virtual for our 20-year history, it can work. The trick is, we have relied on a quarterly basis. We fly all of our employees together so that we can at least meet and socialize. Now that that's gone, we've got to find that balance. I think from an operational workflow standpoint, it can work. There are great tools that'll facilitate it, but it's that personal piece that I think we still have to figure out.